Hello, rugby fans. I'm Brendan Monroe, and welcome to another broadcast of Canadian Direct Insurance Premier League Rugby. Today's game between the UBC Old Boy Ravens in red and the James Bay Athletic Association in blue. We'll go over the starting lineups in just a moment. Starting for the Ravens, wearing number 1, Garrett Garby. Number 2, Tristan Clarenormus. Number 3, Alex O'Donnell. Number 4 is Darcy Ralph. Number 5 is Kirk Bonas. 6, Sullivan Ubbett. 7, Nick Waggett. Number 8 is Joey Alexis. Number 9 is Sam Sutton. With the ball, number 10 is Tom Luke. We're underway. We'll get to the rest of the lineups in just a moment. That ball not quite kicked 10 meters, or I guess it just was in the opinion of our referee, and they are in the first breakdown of the game. At scrum half, it's Sam Sutton spinning that one to his right. Tom Luke now using hands to Sean Ferguson, who played his best game as a Raven last week, scoring 3 tries. That ball was spilled. Nick Witkowski's in there, is collecting the ball, and we have an early knock on and a put in for James Bay. Continuing on the lineups, number 11 for the Ravens is Nolan McAllister. Number 12 is Cole Henriksen. 13, Sean Ferguson. 14, Ben Grant. And the fullback, 15, Sean Hayes. For James Bay, number 1 is Noah Barker. At hooker is Blake Van Heiningen. 3 is Liam Beaulieu. In the second row, Jim DeGoody wears 4. Graham Harriman wearing 5. Back row, Kieran McCauley at 6. Andrew DeGoody at 7. And former Canadian player John Teal wearing number 8 in what I believe is only his second game of the year in the Prems. Number 9 is Spencer Dalziel, veteran fly half. Number 10, Nick Witkowski. 11, Lucien Nell. 12 is Vince Harlar. 13, Mike Neuenhuizen. 14 is Brandon Harrison. And 15, Elliot Mitro, who does all the kicking for James Bay. And we'll endeavor with another scrum, as it's been a bit choppy the opening couple of minutes of this game. Conditions pretty muddy. It rained heavily in Vancouver in the last 24 hours, but it's been mostly dry here today. So we're going to get a pretty decent running game of rugby. And right now, Nick Witkowski is making it look easy as he's gained about 30 meters on this play, but a poor pass into the feet of Mike Neuenhuizen spilled, and a forward pass also called. No support there. Quickly coming up for Witkowski. He had to slow down his run, and his pass was a bit mistimed. And so we'll get yet another scrum. We'd like to thank the sponsors who help us deliver Canadian Direct Insurance Rugby every Saturday. We have Canadian Direct Insurance, B2 Gold, Adira Live West Coast, Neurogenesis Happy Water, Extreme Rugby Wear, Avison Young, Grosvenor, Okanagan Spring Brewery, Thorstenson's, and Langara Fishing Adventures. Sutton with the put in. Stolen by James Bay. Dalziel with the fend. They're inside the 22. Ruck is strong there for James Bay. They'll get a chance to play the ball. Knocked on. Unforced error. Does it look like one of the forwards is in there playing scrum half? Noah Barker looking up before he had his hands on the ball. And so a potential scoring opportunity for James Bay slips away as the put in for this scrum will go to the Ravens in what is about the 5th scrum so far in the first few minutes of this game. Both teams very strong, very heavy packs, 2 of the bigger clubs we're going to see in the Canadian Direct Insurance League. Tom Luke deciding to kick the ball. This one will stay in play. Mitro racing back for it. Bounces away from him now into his hands. No time to kick. He'll run with this one. Mitro stays in play as they tried to throw him into touch. Dalziel now going back for it. And a penalty going. Check that, another knock on for James Bay, and we'll get our 6th scrum of the game as the ball handling looks a little suspect right now out there. To give this game a little more context, James Bay, having won their last game over Capilano, are right in there with 3 other teams at the top of the tables. A win would certainly help move them up into 3rd or maybe even 2nd, or if everything went exactly right, potentially up into the 1st place spot on the tables, depending on what happens out of town. So everybody's in it. And on the other end, the UBC Old Boy Ravens with a big win over Castaway Wanderers, clearing them out of that relegation zone. And it looks like they'll probably be safe, and they're in a very firm spot in the middle of the tables. So they're playing for pride. They are trying to build towards next year. And they're not completely out of the playoff race yet, but a loss to James Bay today would probably take away any hope they have of catching the 4th place team and grabbing one of those 4 playoff spots in May. So an important opportunity for them today to try to catch one of the teams that they could be chasing, but more or less just trying to finish off the season in good form. And they've won a couple of games of late and have been playing much better rugby here in the second half. This penalty going to the Ravens will give them an opportunity to kick it out of their own end. As we see Tom Luke with the ball, doing the kicking, veteran player, played extensively and has played in Europe and has played a number of years here in the Canadian Direct Insurance Premier League and elsewhere as well, top level rugby. Veteran leader on this team. And a very good kicker, it must be added as well. On the line out, it's brought down by Bonas. Maul formed. Box kick. Collected back there by Lucien Nell. Now to Mitro. He'll chop it back the other way. Ferguson going back for it. Nicely collected. A little bit of space out there on the left wing. He's finally brought down. Tristan Clarenormus, one of the younger players for the Ravens, having collected that one. The ball is now into the hands of Sullivan Abbott. A lot of pressure here from James Bay. Witkowski wrapping up his man. Ball just inside the Ravens' 10-meter line. Tom Luke says we're just going to hoist this one away, but it goes into touch on the full. And so we will have a line out for James Bay right at that aforementioned 10-meter line on the Ravens side of halfway. And I apologize, I missed an advantage being played for the knock-on, so that we're going to get a scrum once again. This put in going to the Ravens. Scrums have looked pretty even so far, just that one steal from James Bay to speak of. Ball bounces a little bit tenuously there for the Ravens, but they do collect it and are now on the attack, just short of the halfway line. Ralph putting his shoulder into that tackle. Tom Luke will clear it high in the air, looking for it, losing it. Brandon Harrison now an opportunity on the collected ball. Offload doesn't find hands, as it was Cole Henriksen in there looking for it. Ball sometimes bounces in your favor and sometimes it bounces the opposite way, and it nearly cost James Bay there as that kick was unsecured and was laying loose there on the deck for just a moment, collected by the Ravens but unable to turn it into points. But we will have this line out here pretty deep inside James Bay territory, well inside the 22. Tristan Clarenormus doing the throwing. Ravens collecting it. That was going to be a penalty. Looks like maybe not straight in the line out. So a good opportunity on the attack for the Ravens will not be capitalized upon. And we will get our 10th scrum of the game. Spencer Dalziel with the ball. He will put this one in. That one starts to wheel. John Teal's wrapped up. The ball spun back and kicked clear. On halfway, the Ravens collect it. Looked like Ferguson with the ball, clawing for a couple extra meters. Check that. That was not Ferguson. That may have been Ben Grant. Now a high kick. This is Grant, number 14, after it, and he has the ball bounce out of his hands and then right into the hands of Ferguson, who spilled it forward. I'm not sure if the knock-on would have happened off the first touch, but it definitely happened off the second, and we'll proceed to another scrum. So a second scoring opportunity for the Ravens, just slipping away from their grasp. They'll want to capitalize on one of these chances soon enough here and get some points on the board. The scrum taking place about 20 meters from James Bay's goal area. Now everything is finally set up. And here we go with the put in. This one starts to turn sideways once again. The scrum goes down. And a knock on earned by the Ravens. So we'll switch the scrum half put ins and we'll do it again. The pace of this game's agonizingly slow at times. But I am certain there is a lot of good rugby in both of these teams today. Both teams coming off wins, both teams in good form. Sutton brought down. He supported. Ravens try another phase. Up through the middle. Another 15 meters to go. Crashing in there is Alex O'Donnell. Now Tom Luke throwing a skip pass to his right. So we're going from right to left and left to right for the Ravens, but no real penetration deeper inside that 22-meter zone. And they'll go left once more. Looking for space on the wing on the outside, just short of the line, and a try signaled. As that was Nolan McAllister, who found some daylight on that left wing and slipped a tackle, just getting across the line for the first try of the game. So the Ravens, who had been putting pressure on for the last couple of minutes, finally get their breakthrough. And they will open the account with 5 points on the board. It'll be a tricky conversion for Tom Luke all the way on the touchline. We'll take a minute to set that up. But a good series of phase play from the Ravens as they probe from left to right, looking for that hole in the defense, and they finally found that overlap in the corner and took advantage of that space that James Bay offered them. And a good positive start for the Ravens. This kick is low, but it slices its way between the uprights. 2 more points for the Ravens as they stretch their lead now to 7. Mitru with the dropout. Not quite close enough to his forwards running onto it as the Ravens are able to maintain possession. Luke will kick it deep. This one will stay in. Mitru back for it. He has options to kick or run, and he will kick it back. Try scorer McAllister having collected that ball. Now on halfway are the Ravens. The penalty coming for not releasing in the tackle. And James Bay will have this opportunity to buy some territory, courtesy of the boot. And that's well done from Mitru. As the ball pushed just inside the 22-meter line. And an opportunity for a reply from James Bay, who suddenly find themselves down 7 points after that series of sustained play from the Ravens. James Bay have not threatened so far in this game. They've been inside the 22-meter line just the one time. And that plan was set back by a knock-on. So they'll look to execute a little bit better this time inside the 22. It starts with the line out, and that's well taken. Maul not getting any momentum just yet, and now it does as it drives forward a couple of meters. The ball still being pushed forward with about 10 meters left to go. This is a good-looking maul from James Bay. It'll stop short of the line, but only a couple more meters now to go if they can support the ball carrier, and they do. Spun to the right, looking for a winger, diving over the corner, and a try is scored by James Bay. I believe that was Brandon Harrison on the right wing getting over the line for James Bay. A good reply, looking very similar to the way that the Ravens got their opening try. Just a little bit of daylight in the corner, and the winger found it, and that brings our score to 7-5. That play was all set up by a very strong maul from James Bay. Just outside the 22-meter line, it pushed forward about 10 meters. Looked like it was going to collapse, but the ball carrier was able to stay on his feet and was supported just shy of the goal line. And eventually getting in there was Dalziel, and he was able to find the winger courtesy of a couple of passes along the way through the centers and into the corner for the try for James Bay. Dalziel will check that. Mitru will be doing the kicking here. Again, a difficult kick from just outside the 22-meter line and just inside that touch line as well. This kick is going to be wide left, and so the Ravens maintain their lead, but by the narrowest of margins. Good reply there from James Bay, and we have good, entertaining rugby game suddenly on our hands. Both teams will be confident, having got across the try line early. Some positive rugby played by both teams so far. Barker charging forward. Mitru with the ball will kick it high. This one stays in. Now coming across the line to our right. Intercepted on the play. Nell is brought down. And Dalziel spins it to his left to Graham Harriman. He's at the 10-meter line. Supported, lots of players in the ruck there for James Bay. Their pods working well to support the ball. Dalziel will get it over to the fly half, who thought about switching it, but he holds on to it, Witkowski does, and they'll try that set play once more to the man in the 10 position, but this time the Ravens are on it quickly. Once more, that attack from the first ball receiver, just charging at the Ravens line, trying to punish their defense, trying to soften them up. A couple of crash balls before trying to spin it to the back seems to be the play here. Again, just the one pass and then charging into that tackle line. Good counter-rucking there as the Ravens tried to turn that one over, but James Bay continuing to hold on to it. Mike Van Nieuwenhuizen again using his shoulder as a weapon. Turned over though, and the Ravens have it now. Ben Grant's brought down. Bonus stayed on his feet momentarily, and now he is tackled, and the Ravens will try the left side. Luke chips it forward. It bounces a few times. It's heading towards the touchline. It stays in, and Mitru is pushed into touch. And that kick came courtesy of an advantage that was being played. No advantage gained, and we will bring this one back for the earlier infringement. This penalty benefiting the Ravens. They'll have an opportunity to kick a little bit further this time, as that last kick with advantage only gained about 10 meters, and this one will be more like 20 as it lands in touch just outside the 22-meter line. Good touch finding penalty kick there from Tom Luke. Both teams organizing for this line out. The whistle goes, they'll reset this one, as there was a lot of movement happening before the lifting. Ball taken high by the Ravens. Luke playing at fly half will spin it to his right. There's a line break and a good offload pass to Ferguson, who dances to the left and will score a try under the post. Great run, great line chosen there by Sean Ferguson, as he collected that ball off the very nice offload from his teammate. And Ferguson using those world-class wheels to score a try, and his hot streak continues. And that extends the Ravens' lead now, as they are now on 12 points. And both teams trading punches. And that kick sails through. 2 converted tries now for the Ravens, as they lead 14-5 here in the first half of play. James Bay's defense not as disciplined as they would have liked on that last sequence. Just a clean line break happening. And they will need to tidy that up if they hope to win this game. Mitru with the restart. This is a good looking restart, chance for his players to run onto it, but well collected there by Joey Alexis, and he gets the ball up to the 10-meter line for the Ravens. Familiar kick being employed there by Tom Luke. Mitru back for it. He'll choose to spin it to Lucien Nell, who does the kicking, and a deep kick landing in touch, which the Ravens will return. And they kick for territory. Back and forth they go. No team getting any benefit from this kicking just yet, but maybe the Ravens will have an opportunity with that loose ball. No real chase pressure being applied by either team, and finally they say that's enough kicking back and forth. The Ravens want to run this one. Big sprint from Tom Luke before he's tackled. There really wasn't too much space on that right side, but they do put themselves in a good position there, and just failing to break through the defense there were the Ravens, and a knock-on coming on that pass, and a put-in will result for James Bay. We'd like to once again thank our sponsors who help us deliver streaming rugby to you. We'd like to thank Canadian Direct Insurance, B2 Gold, Adira Live West Coast, Neurogenesis Happy Water, Extreme Rugby Wear, Avis & Young, Grosvenor, Okanagan Springs, Thorstenson's, and Langara Fishing Adventures. Dalziel waiting for that ball to come out. Now it does, with Kowski. Goes back to the inside channel. James Bay will try to run this one out. They're just outside their, or inside their own 10-meter line. They had a great response to the Ravens' opening try. Can they do likewise once again? Ball is bobbled by Ben Grant, but he does collect it and fends off a couple of tacklers using that right arm, gets back over the halfway line. And good support by the Ravens allow them to set up another run. Clearanomus doing the damage there. Now it's going to be Nick Waggett tackled. Tom Luke again, who's seen the ball quite a bit in this first half. And why not? One of the good weapons that the Ravens possess. But once again, a penalty being awarded, not releasing in the tackle. We've seen that a couple of times charged against the Ravens so far. And James Bay will have an opportunity to use this penalty to get some territory. Mitru's high penalty kick finds touch. About 35 meters from goal, still plenty of territory left to cover for James Bay. The Ravens will want to be careful not to give that ball to Mitru too much for kicking purposes. A former soccer player, he certainly has a strong leg on him and can gain a lot of territory for his team quickly. The throw in here coming from number 1, Noah Barker. And another penalty coming. Check that. That may have been a knock-on, and indeed it was. So we've seen quite a number of knock-ons here. Of course, the rain having a big effect on the ball handling for both teams. And the Ravens with the put-in. Sutton goes left. Tom Luke goes right. That fend looked a bit like an elbow from here. Our referee, Sherry Trumbull, not making a call on that play and instead rules the knock-on as the ball hit the ground and was spilled forward, and we'll get what'll probably be our 16th or 17th scrum of the game so far. And again, despite all the scrums, neither team really imposing their dominance over the other forward pack. The best work from the forwards so far today coming from James Bay's forward pack on that maul 10 minutes ago, allowing them to score their opening try, setting up that play. And with the penalty, James Bay decides to tap and go quickly. Running with the ball was Teal, tackled. Dalziel spins to his right. Blake Van Heinigen running with it. And they're pushing their way forward just inside the 22-meter line now are James Bay. And now they're in a good position just outside the line, a second movement potentially. And a penalty coming here again, not releasing. And this one goes to the Ravens, and that gets them out of jail as James Bay were threatening just a few meters away from the line. And they will now have an opportunity to clear their lines. That support just not there where it needed to be for James Bay as they were on the attack, but just not quite organized enough as an attacking pod to get their man supported and to continue on with that attacking phase. And the Ravens are able to kick it outside the 22, and we'll get a line out coming up. Set pieces being very, very important in this game as we haven't seen a lot of open field play. And the open field play that we have seen, I would say, has favored the Ravens so far. High, deep line out, slips through the hands, and we'll get a knock on. Charged against the Ravens as Joey Alexis unable to squeeze the pill. Underlining my point about the importance of set plays and set pieces here in this game. And it looks at this point like whatever team wants to own these scrums will have a significant edge in this game, as we've seen so many of them here in the first half. Good pushback from the Ravens, but James Bay able to retain the ball. Witkowski to his left to Van Nieuwenhuizen. Dalziel will go left once again. Turnover, the Ravens have it. Tom Luke says, I'll just chip that high, no chaser after it. And Lucien Nell collecting it for James Bay. Ravens unable to capitalize on that previous turnover, and James Bay back on the attack quickly. No opening there on the left side for James Bay to exploit. They'll go back to that middle channel. Jim DeGoody throwing his upper body into that one as he gets up slowly. Now a little more width shown by the James Bay as they get the ball further up the field on the right-hand side. Dalziel assessing his options, doesn't like his move to the right, decides to go back to the left. A bit of a breakthrough there for Mitru. He's able to buy himself a couple more meters, but there will be a penalty here. Check that, there's a forward pass, I believe, being called by our referee, Sherry Trumbull. And again, a little bit of disconnect in the James Bay offense once they've got themselves inside the 22-meter line. They've only been in there 3 times so far. They do have the 1 try to their account, but we've seen a few drop balls. We've seen a couple of turnovers on the ground. So credit to the Ravens for disrupting the James Bay attack whenever the pressure gets turned up. But a couple of unforced errors as well from James Bay that they'll be thinking about as we approach halftime. 14 for the Ravens, 5 for James Bay. And the Ravens will try to run this out of their own territory. Changing their mind, Tom Luke will kick it. Dangerous to have that boot in the fly half position, as he has that double threat of being able to run or kick. And that ball kicked very well from James Bay. Lands in touch and spins into touch inside the 22-meter line. Now, while it will be a Raven put-in, line out, I should say, the James Bay kicking team doing a good job buying some territory there and putting the Ravens under pressure once again. Ball does not go to hand. The Ravens trying to secure this one. And we'll have a knock on. Bit of a slip there from the Ravens as they were unable to execute on their own line out. And now the mistakes inside the 22 being accrued by the Ravens, as James Bay will have an opportunity with this put in to push the Ravens back with about 12 meters to cover between themselves and the line right now. Dalziel goes to his right. Runners wrapped up and bundled into touch. So the Ravens defense doing their job and rebuffing that attack from James Bay. They'll have an opportunity to reorganize. And this time the line out goes much better as Bonas grabs that one. And while the maul is slowed down, there's a box kick that clears the ball outside the 10-meter line and relieves the pressure. Check that on the angle. The ball went out a little bit sooner than the 10-meter line. It's halfway between the 10-meter line and the 22. And it will be a line out for James Bay. And we've seen a lot of these line outs. We've seen a lot of scrums. The set piece is so important in this game so far. And the edge probably going to the Ravens, but it's close as both teams have made some slips in those set pieces that they'll want to clean up as this game goes on. Witkowski through to Van Herlar, who slips a tackle, is charging towards the line and scoring a try. Vince Herlar getting their second try on the board for James Bay as he was able to shrug off a tackle and there was no one in defense after that. And James Bay have suddenly put themselves back in this game with their second try of the afternoon. Very opportunistic from James Bay. All it took was one line break and suddenly they were through. And that's certainly what this game needed, was a little more offense and some free-flowing rugby, and we've seen it just now from James Bay as Mitru lines up this kick. And with the conversion, that claws James Bay back to within 2 points. 14 for the Ravens, 12 for James Bay. The sun begins to poke its way once again through the clouds in what has been a wonderful afternoon of rugby here in the Lower Mainland and across the province of BC. We are now deep into the month of March. Playoffs fast approaching, and each of these games take on ever increasing importance and bigger meaning in the playoff picture. Both in the CDI Premier League and as well as all the club games happening around BC. Ravens have not had the ball in attacking territory for quite a long time now, and they'll try to get that done here as Garby goes over the top. Pass goes to ground before the Ravens are able to scoop it up off the ground and reorganize. Sidestep from Cole Henriksen. Sutton to Luke. He'll keep it. Thrown to the ground. It looked like Ben Grant just stealing the ball away from his own teammate Garby there, but still pushing forward. Clear enormous. Good leg drive, getting himself a couple more meters before he's tackled. Ball slips through the hands of Nick Waggett, and a turnover and a knock-on being charged against the Ravens. So good sustained play there from the Ravens through a few phases, stopped up by that knock-on. And we are through 36, 37 minutes of the first half as we close in on halftime, and what has been a very evenly contested, very entertaining first half of rugby. A lot of play in the set pieces, a lot of play in single passes, and then occasionally we'll get a line break and we'll get those points on the board. So it's been a good balance of tough contest and moments of brilliance from both teams. Grant over to the fullback, Hayes. He gets over halfway, and the Ravens will set up another attack. They'll be thinking of getting some more points on the board before halftime. Sullivan, Abbott, Tom Luke, over to Henriksen. Deciding to take it himself. At number 9 was Sam Sutton, buying himself 20 meters. And now there's some overlap on the right-hand side. It's clear enormous. One more pass into the corner. It's spilled just short of the line. And another knock-on will slow down that Ravens assault. Some good passing there from the Ravens. A very positive stretch of play as they look to attack the white line, but unable to get the ball there securely. And James Bay will be relieved that that pass went to ground as the Ravens are denied the points. We're just coming up on 40 minutes now, so a chance for one more sequence here from James Bay, as they'll want to get it out. The ball's loose and it's turned over, and there's going to be an infringement on that before the ball came out. The Ravens thought for a second there that they'd scooped a loose ball on the deck, and we're going to be right meters from the try line, but we'll reset this scrum. James Bay likely just to kick this one clear, as I suspect we're right on halftime. Dalziel to put in. That ball comes out, and they're going to try to run it out or at least set themselves up. Teal with the ball under the pile there. And now the kick into touch. And that is indeed halftime. So the score at halfway is the Ravens 14, James Bay 12, both teams with a try. The difference just being the one extra conversion for the Ravens. It's been a very entertaining first half of rugby. Stay with us and we'll bring you the second half of Canadian Direct Insurance Premier League Rugby here from Vancouver, BC.
At Canadian Direct Insurance, we've all had a first car, and a second car, and then something that more closely resembles a bus. We've carpooled, car tripped, and carpool tripped. We've even had car mishaps. That's why we give you the kind of service we'd expect for ourselves. Canadian Direct Insurance.
And we're back for second half action between James Bay and the UBC Old Boy Ravens. Elliot Mitro with the ball. He'll get things back started for James Bay, who finished off that second half with a try and response to close that gap, and now only trail by 2. And they were able to rebuff one last attack from the Ravens before halftime. And just an extra conversion, the difference between the two clubs right now. Both teams playing very positive rugby. A lot of set pieces in that first half, very evenly contested. It's been a very balanced match. And both clubs with everything to play for here in the second half, as the ball is hoisted back to Mitru, and he will do the Gary Owen up and under. Spilled back by the Ravens as they try to get their hands on that loose ball. And we're going to get an infringement here and a penalty to the Ravens from their own 10-meter line, right in the center of the field. Tom Luke's kick finds touch. 20 meters distant from where it started. And the Ravens will have this line out. There were probably 2 or 3 spilled balls on the lineouts for the Ravens in the first half. This one a lot more cleanly taken, and a good transition to the backs as Ferguson has the ball with some speed. Flat pass over to Nolan McAllister as he is bundled into touch. And so a good attacking phase there from the Ravens is slowed down. And James Bay will have this opportunity on the line out. Noah Barker throwing it in for James Bay. Throw is collected by James Bay. They set up the maul, trying to buy themselves a little bit of space, maybe setting up a kick to get into touch. But no, they just drive this one forward with the pack. And now it's finally brought to the ground. Crashing to the ground heavily was Liam Bolia. And the Ravens win a penalty for not releasing. They're within sight of the posts. They are 30 meters to go on a bit of an angle, but certainly within kicking distance, and a little discussion going on now what the plan should be for the Ravens, whether they want to throw the hammer down and go for the corner, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. And this ball finding touch deep inside the 22-meter line. The Ravens want as many points as they can get. They're pretty deep in the playoff chase, but they certainly want to get any kind of bonus point possible on offer to them. So trying to get the 4 scores, the 4 tries, a bit of a no-brainer for them if they can, and it certainly will help them try to get the upper hand in this game. Starts with this line out, and well taken, the maul is formed. Can it push any further forward as it has another 10 meters to cover? Just a little bit of territory gain there as the ball is supported, still short of the line. But a lot of pressure here on the James Bay defense as the Ravens are trying to get over that line. Just a couple more meters to go, and an infraction. Interference, obstruction being run by the Ravens in the opinion of our referee, Sherry Trumbull. Opportunity denied for the Ravens, and James Bay will have an opportunity now to kick it into touch as this ball will stay in play. McAllister running into the middle of the field. He has the support there from Ferguson, who's got wheels. He'll go with a flat pass to his right, and the Ravens are suddenly back on the attack. Darcy Ralph getting deep inside James Bay territory. This looks good for the Ravens. Tom Luke wrapped up by his counterpart, Nick Witkowski. Both savvy veteran players, both involved at BC as coaches out there on the field right now as contestants battling. Garby spins away from a tackle, showing great feet for the big man. He stopped just short of the line, and the ball is held up in goal by James Bay. Great burst of speed there from the prop, Garrett Garby, and good balance there as well as he spun away from a tackle and denied the try just by the narrowest of margins. So a momentary reprieve for James Bay, but the Ravens right back on the attack now with this put in. Some very early pushing on the scrum. Our referee, Sherry Trumbull, not happy with that. Those forwards very familiar with each other at this point in the game as we've surpassed our 25th scrum of the afternoon. So a chance to rest their legs and their lungs just a second for the defenders for James Bay, but it'll be right on the offense here for the Ravens. Looking for the line was Joey Alexis. He stopped. Now Tom Luke trying to find that last extra drive. He's at the line, but he's tackled. Bit of scrambly defense from James Bay, but they've kept the ball out so far. Ravens continuing to knock at the door. Just those pick and drives. They're at the line. They think they're in. No, they're not quite. Referees coming around the other side trying to look for the ball. It is held just short of the line. Ravens still in possession. Probably getting told to use it. Now they'll have to reset. They just need one more meter. Pass is fake to the backs, but well read by the James Bay defense. Now another crash ball. Sustained pressure from the Ravens. This is good stuff from James Bay on defense, but the Ravens continue to knock, continuing to ask questions. Now spun into the backs. Drop goal attempt, or is it a chip over the top? It's chipped over the top and well collected and spilled just at the line. And it is going to be ruled a knock-on, I suspect, as James Bay had a hole back there. No one at that far wing position. And running onto it was the winger, Ben Grant, and not quite able to squeeze it. As he continues to lay on his back now, getting up, probably just a little disappointed with himself that he wasn't able to squeeze that high kick from Ferguson. And it was a clever play and nearly perfectly executed by the Ravens, but in the end fell just short of perfection and just short of the try. As we slow things down for a moment and deal with some bumps and bruises, we would like to thank all of our sponsors who help us deliver rugby every Saturday. We would like to thank Canadian Direct Insurance, B2 Gold, Adira, Live West Coast, Neurogenesis Happy Water, Extreme Rugby Wear, Avison Young, Grosvenor, Okanagan Spring Brewery, Thorstenson's, Langara Fishing Adventures. We'd also like to thank all of you who join us for our broadcasts every Saturday, whether it's in the comfort of your own home watching on bcrugby.com or on our YouTube channel later on in the archives or down at Library Square watching. We would like to thank everyone for supporting rugby in BC, and we love to bring these games to you. It's a great product. There's lots of rugby going on, and we're very pleased you've decided to enjoy our brand of it, and both clubs putting on a very good display of rugby this afternoon. A very tight game, which the Ravens continue to lead 14-12, denied of an opportunity to expand that lead just moments ago. And they'll have to regroup as the ball is kicked into touch at the 22-meter line. So the Ravens, who were on the line just a moment ago, unable to find those points, will have to dig deep in order to reorganize their attack. That line out is well collected. Tom Luke will take the ball into the tackle line. Now it's going to be handed off to Cole Henriksen. Ravens not quite sure which of their backs was taking that ball as a couple of the players got their signals crossed. I believe that was Tristan Clear-Normus and Sullivan Abbott, both reaching for the same pass. And the knock-on is the result, and we'll have yet another scrum as our referee, Sherry Trumbull, gives some instructions to both teams about just the open field play, I believe, and who's offside and onside. And I'm sure she's given some instructions to both these clubs about the scrums, as she's dealt with many, many scrums so far today. James Bay will be happy to slow things down. They've been on defense for a number of minutes now, trying to catch their breath. And Dalziel with the put in. Teal will run this one a couple of meters to his right. The ball is loose on the deck. The Ravens recover, and they'll try to swing it through the backs to the right. Now over to Grant. There's some space in the corner. He reaches for that corner flag. Try signaled from our referee, Sherry Trumbull, and the Ravens have their third try of the game as they were able to purloin that ball off the ground and quickly go on the counterattack. Well done for the Ravens to get their third try of the game, and they've extended their lead now to 19-12. Not exactly the way you expected them to score after all that phase play rated at the line. It's going to be a counterattack open field play that resulted in the points for the Ravens. It was certainly coming, but the format just a little bit different than probably what a lot of people expected. And James Bay unable to collect their breath long enough to organize themselves in defense. And the Ravens taking advantage of that momentary lapse in coverage on the far side. Tom Luke with the kick. Strong kick. No signal from the referees, so that one is going to be denied. And the scoreline remains 19-12. One converted try separating these two teams right now. Well, 30 minutes remaining in this broadcast. I apologize about the camera angle there as we're back underway. Off the restart. With Sutton spinning the ball to his backs. Once again, Luke, who's done a lot of kicking today, will get that ball deep into James Bay territory. And Mitru happy to run this one back. Getting over halfway. Dalziel spin the ball to his left. Just the single passes to the backs at this point in time. And after spending the last 10 minutes in their own end, James Bay will want again to reply. They've been able to counter all three of the Ravens' scores so far in this game, and they'll look to do the same once again. Ball just outside the 10-meter line. Bouncing off a tackle was Andrew DeGoody, one of the many DeGoodies in the James Bay lineup week in, week out. It's pretty rare that you go a Saturday without at least one DeGoody being dressed for James Bay. Good offload to Witkowski. Doesn't like his options now. He'll go left. A fend by Herlar, who scored our try earlier. and a penalty, this one going to James Bay, and they'll be in an interesting situation here with an opportunity to kick for posts from about 37 meters or to kick into the corner. They'll probably want to try to get the riposte the full 7 points, I would expect. But a little strategy meeting going on right now. No signal yet that they're asking for the kicking tee. And in it comes. So Elliot Mitru will try to go for the 3 points on the penalty. Just north of 30 meters to cover with this kick. No wind at all here at Jericho Park, making the conditions a little bit easier. It is loose underfoot with the mud and the waterlogged soil. The kick is up. It is good. 3 points to James Bay will narrow that gap. Now it is 19 for the Ravens and 15 for James Bay. We're going to get an interesting last 20 minutes of this rugby game. The Ravens will collect the ball on halfway. Running with it is McAllister. He's tripped up. A breakthrough collecting the ball is Nick Waggett. He'll get wrapped up, but back on his feet. That pass not so well advised, turned over. And after a very bright run from the Ravens, a bit of a rash decision results in the turnover, and the ball is going to be kicked into touch, relieving the pressure. James Bay a bit fortunate there as the Ravens' number 7 was able to break through that tackle line, gaining a lot of territory, and was only slowed down by the fullback, the last man preventing him from getting in and adding the Ravens' 4th try of the game. That ball at the back of the maul, slowly pushing its way forward. That ball goes to ground. Finally, it's going to be collected on the right side. Chipped forward on the grubber kick. Going back after it is Brandon Harrison. He dots down. We'll get a restart on the 22. Mitru thought about taking it quickly, but the Ravens were back in defense, so they'll slow this one down. And off the restart, both players up for it. James Bay able to bring it down. And now the attack from the Bays on halfway. Dalziel, his pass is a good one into Teal. Barker running hard forward. Some good probing runs from James Bay as they get over halfway. Herlar brought down. Starting from a standing start, not so helpful, but able to buy himself a lot of territory with that hard run was Noah Barker. And that ball was barely held onto by Brandon Harrison as he got a pass right in the shoelaces, but was able to recover it. That slows down the attack for James Bay, but they're right back at it. If they can get the support there that they need, and they do, Dalziel decides to take the ball. We haven't seen that too much from him today. Happy to distribute. That time he took it himself. DeGoody is tackled. They still have about 25 meters to cover here, but James Bay certainly looking to get themselves their 3rd try of the game. Van Heiningen ever so closer now, about 10 more meters left. James Bay happy to work the ball through the forwards. Ravens organized on defense. They have that tackle line well set up. They're up together. But there could be a little space on the left-hand side. Denied by the Ravens. Good defense, good formation there as they were able to move, shifting to the right and covering that fullback. And the ball was spilled forward, collected by Tom Luke at the bottom of that pile. It's going to be turnover ball for the Ravens. And the box kicks the ball up in the air and clear and into touch. Not a lot of distance on that kick before finding touch, however, and it will be a James Bay lineout in a very strong attacking position. Check that. It'll be a throw in for the Ravens as there was an infraction on that previous play on the turnover. And that kick much deeper than the prior one. So after a little bit of penalties and some kicking, we finally result in a line out for James Bay, as they will attempt to continue the pressure that they've been putting on for the last few minutes. There's a bit of a window for Kieran McCauley, and he's through for the try as the line just disappeared, and suddenly James Bay were able to find the daylight they were looking for, and they end up with their third try of the game. The Ravens will be disappointed that they just didn't have anybody covering that gap, and James Bay able to exploit it. That brings them to 20. And their first lead of the game with an opportunity to extend it with a conversion. Elliot Mitru will do the kicking once again for James Bay. His kick is up, and it is through. 2 more points for James Bay. They now hold that 3-point lead. That one penalty kick going the way of James Bay earlier is the only difference right now. Deep restart from Tom Luke. The ball goes to ground where it's going to be scooped up by Brandon Harrison. His kick actually goes just into touch, and quickly throwing it back in was Joey Alexis. And they'll stop that one. They'll say there's a foot in touch. Sarah Turner, our touch judge, has his flag up. Not satisfied that quick line out was done properly. A little bit of discussion happening right in front of our broadcast position. Off the line out, collected by the Ravens. Quickly into the tackle line was Cole Henriksen. Now there's a slip through by Sean Hayes, a kick forward, the chase is on. Who can get to it first? And the ball slips out of play just before anyone's able to run onto it. Good probing kick there from the fullback. And it will be a line out to James Bay, deep in their own territory. James Bay able to collect their own line out. Slowly pushing forward. Where's that ball? Nobody knows. Now the maul finally hits the ground. The ball is spun back to Mitru, and kick is charged down by Garrett Garvey, who's got the ball, and it spills forward. Will they rule that a knock-on? Knock-on signaled by our referee, Sherry Trumbull. Great charge down by Garvey. The ball bouncing around tenuously and just going the way of James Bay in that situation, as it looked for a moment like the Ravens had their 4th try of the game. James Bay not out of trouble just yet. They have to put in for this scrum, but it's basically right on their own line. And we will reset the scrum once again. Those forward packs very, very familiar with each other at this point in the game. Once again, we will try the scrum with Dalziel putting in. Players moving early. A penalty to James Bay is dropped. Was that a knock-on? No, says our referee. Actually, yes, says our referee. As she did spot it, as did our camera operator, and we have a scrum down to the Ravens in a very positive offensive situation for them. Pickup from the Ravens fly half, spun all the way out to, I believe that was Henriksen, who's brought down. 10 more meters to cover here for the Ravens. 3-on-2, 3-on-3, a bit of a breakthrough. Is there an extra man to distribute the ball to? The ball's at the line, and a try scored by the Ravens. I didn't catch the number. It looked like one of their centers able to dive over the line. And the Ravens have earned their 4th try of the game, and they get back in the lead as well, courtesy of that strong passing as the centers linked up. I believe that may have been Sean Hayes, the fullback, who did the damage there for the Ravens, diving across the line. So we have a Ravens score, Ravens try, which brings their score line up to 24. The kick to come. The kick is now up. And the kick is good. 26 points now for the Ravens, who have reestablished their lead after falling behind. Very close match as we entered the last 15 minutes of this game. Like a heavyweight bout, both teams trading punches. One try replied by the next. And just the one try a difference potentially for one of these teams as we sit on that 4-point gap. The Ravens in the lead. We've seen a lot of strong replies from James Bay. Every time the Ravens have scored a try in this game, they have come back with one of their own. A few minutes later, they'll look to do the same once more. McCauley running forward. Check that. That was Blake Van Heinigen before he was tackled. And now it's going to be Lucien Nell looking for a little bit of space on the right side, staying in bounds, and Dalziel will collect the ball, doing a skip pass. And the Ravens are at the 10-meter line. Still lots of ground to cover, but good, strong attacking runs coming from James Bay as they try to find a hole in that Ravens defense. DeGoody stopped. And a penalty, this time going to the Ravens. Again, not releasing in the tackle. And we have an injury behind the play to one of the Ravens players. And I believe that is Joey Alexis who's down, number 8. He'll get some medical attention. And while we set up the next part of our game, we would like to thank all of our sponsors who help us deliver streaming rugby to you. We would like to thank Canadian Direct Insurance, B2 Gold, Adira, Live West Coast, Neurogenesis Happy Water, Extreme Rugby Wear, Avison Young, Grosvenor, Okanagan Spring Brewery, Thorstenson's, and Langara Fishing Adventures. It's been a wonderful afternoon of rugby here from both teams, both clubs playing a very positive form of the game. We've seen a lot of set pieces. We've seen a very evenly contested match from both teams, and it's just been a question of line breaks for the most part. Who's been able to finally get that hole and make that exploitation. We've seen a couple of tries in the corner. We've seen each team score one pretty much underneath the posts. And it's been an exciting game of rugby for those who did come down to Jericho Park here in Vancouver, just steps away from the ocean. A beautiful place to come watch a rugby game. And for those who didn't make it down, we're glad you're able to join us for our online broadcast. So we'll get things back underway as the injured player back up on his feet. With that penalty, the Ravens were able to earn themselves another 20 meters, and they'll have this line out. But it's thrown to James Bay, and it's going to be DeGoody, I believe, kicking that one deep into Ravens territory. Ravens will have to reset. They decide to run this one out. Witkowski in there with the tackle for James Bay. Ravens able to support their player. And the ball is spun to Tom Luke, who kicks it high. Mitru also back there for it was Brandon Harrison. Now to Mitru. He'll run with it, thinking about kicking. And he's tackled very hard by Nick Waggett, wearing number 7 for the Ravens. And a penalty coming as Mitru was just leveled in the middle of the field, but there were hands in the ruck on that one, and James Bay able to retain possession, and they will get this penalty. Although not much distance put on that kick, as the full momentum of that one was to the side instead of east-west up and down the field here, or whatever direction you want to call it. So we have this line out for James Bay just inside of their half of the halfway line. James Bay able to retain possession on the line out, now pushing forward. Committing a lot of forwards, committing a lot of players to this maul. Finally starts to disintegrate and now hits the ground. Dalziel looking for the ball amongst a pile of bodies, able to do so, spinning it to Witkowski. He goes against the grain, running to his left, getting through the first line of defenders before being tackled. Jim DeGoody's run rebuffed. The ball was loose there for a moment, but James Bay able to hold on to it. Dalziel tackled by 4 James Bay defenders. Ravens defenders. They hold him up. And James Bay unable to gain any forward momentum. They've had the ball for 4 or 5 phases here, but they're still right on that halfway line. Trailing by 4 points. They have trailed by 7 points or less for much of this game. Have only had the lead momentarily for a couple of minutes here in the second half, and are once again trying to reply, get themselves back into this game. A forward pass is called there on that last run from Brandon Harrison. And so we'll get another scrum. We're into the final 10 minutes here. Depending how much time was added for injuries, I'd say there's about 6 or 7 minutes left. Bit of difficulty extracting the ball from that scrum, but the Ravens able to retain possession. Luke does the crossfield kick. Is there anybody running onto it for his team? No. Mitro able to collect the ball. He's met quickly, though. Ravens trying to rake at that ball, but James Bay able to hold on to possession. The ball hits the ground. It was loose just for a second, but the flag is up from our touch judge, and there was a foot in touch, so we're going to get another line out. The pace of this game at times has been slowed by the number of lineouts, by the number of scrums. But here's some good open play rugby from the Ravens as Ferguson's pass bounces once before being collected by McAllister. Darcy Ralph runs straight ahead. The Ravens trying to soften up the middle of that tackle line, right in the middle of the park. They want to retain possession as they have that 4-point lead. Smart rugby will be critical here in the final few minutes of this game should the Ravens be able to hold on to that lead. Garby to Luke to Ferguson. He's able to find a bit of a gap, but the ball hits the ground. It looks like a knock-on. And once again, the touch flag goes up. So it's either a knock-on for first or a line-out. And we'll decide that in just a moment as our referee signals are partially blocked by the players. And it looks again like we have a scrum that will take place, this one occurring again just inside the halfway line on the James Bay side of center. James Bay able to collect their own ball. Witkowski goes back inside on the little pop pass. Now they'll use a little bit more width, getting the ball out to the winger. No forward progress as James Bay unable to break that gain line in the last couple of phases. Good tackling again from the Ravens. Mitru is punished as he tries to run through the line. Check that, that was Dalziel in that last sequence. Now a little bit of running room down the left wing for James Bay. That was Brandon Harrison finding some daylight, but he was eventually wrapped up. Pressure being put on that Ravens defense. The ball spill forward, an opportunity to relieve the pressure as the Ravens' Tom Luke spins the ball to his left. There could be an overlap here for the Ravens. Ferguson racing down the touchline. One more man to beat. He's held up by Mitru, and no support there for the Ravens as James Bay are able to turn the ball over. A penalty will result, however, as there could have been a side entry on that last one, and not releasing again is the call as Ferguson was held on the ground. Ferguson very dangerous when he's able to find open field with the ball like he was there, and not quite able to get past that last tackler. But the Ravens were able to cover about 50 meters of territory very quickly, and with this penalty we will be able to earn a few more meters as Luke lines up this kick, trying to find that space in the corner. It's a good looking kick from Tom Luke, and the ball is well inside the 22-meter line. A fantastic attacking position to be set up for the Ravens. As they look to pad that lead, which right now sits only at 4 points. Ravens driving this one forward towards the line. They're in a great spot right now. The signal goes up that a try has been scored, and the Ravens have extended their lead. Not quite sure which number was responsible for diving over the line with ball in hand, but a great team try scored by the Ravens, covering 80 meters worth of territory in about 45 seconds. And they're in the driver's seat as this game gets into its final moments. 31 points now for the Ravens. So that defense was tested for several minutes and was able to cause the turnover, and a very quick counterattack brought the ball most of the way up the field, and they were able to finish very quickly off that line out. And so the Ravens are in great shape right now to pull off their second win in 2 weeks. Luke's kick goes right through the middle. Another 2 points for the Ravens. And that's our final whistle. Great performance from the UBC Old Boy Ravens as they got the first try of the game, and they stayed in the lead almost the entire 80 minutes. They fell behind once, but were able to reestablish the upper hand and score the try on the final whistle. And the final score in this game, Ravens 33, James Bay 22. And we would like to thank you for joining us for our game here today. It's been a fantastic game of rugby, another fantastic Saturday. Good crowd here at Jericho Park. And once again, we would like to thank all of our sponsors who help us deliver streaming rugby to you. We would like to thank Canadian Direct Insurance, B2 Gold, Adira, Live West Coast, Neurogenesis Happy Water, Extreme Rugby Wear, Avison Young, Grosvenor, Okanagan Spring Brewery, Thorstenson's, and Langara Fishing Adventures. I'm Brendan Monroe on behalf of everyone at BC Rugby. We would like to wish you a great week. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you for our next game next Saturday as we continue to bring you our weekly CDI Game of the Week. Enjoy your week, everybody.
BC Rugby has a 125-year history, a history of success and pride. There's a place for everyone, young and old, boys and girls, one spirit, one team. Some play a small part, some larger, and some, the special ones, they know what it takes to grab onto that history and shake it to its core, inspiring us all. They train for hours, alone, pushed by will, determination, no one watching, no one cheering. They find a way to push a little further, to wring out one more set, one more rep. You know your opponent is training hard, so you train harder. Your biggest threat may not be the opposition, because someone always wants to wear your jersey, to take it from you. What are you prepared to do to keep it? That jersey, that crest, forever bonds you to something bigger, makes you stronger than you could ever be on your own. So you push harder, dig deeper until you have nothing left. Because it's all about the team, those fighting beside you now, and those who came before you. BC Rugby, one spirit, one team.